Welcome to the podcast from HeadHunters Northwest. HeadHunters Northwest. Specialized recruiting, specialized approach, where we take you behind the scenes into our customers' businesses. For over 20 years, HeadHunters Northwest has served the global defense, small arms, and shooting sectors worldwide. Listen in as we discuss the inner workings of our USA and international customers. HeadHunters Northwest, finding you the best heads for business.
Hello, lovely audience. Thank you so much for listening and watching on YouTube if you're watching this or on our website. Welcome to HeadHunters Northwest podcast. I am excited to have Jack Jameson here. Isn't that the greatest name? I just think that's the greatest name. Your parents picked a good name.
I used to
remember that and you can spell it.
Yeah, I used to introduce myself as the best drinking name ever. But don't do much drinking in my older age, so it doesn't have quite the same.
I like it. That is the best name. Well, welcome everybody. Jack has one of the most well-rounded resumes in the firearm industry, and he's held sales roles at Beretta USA, AOB, Faxon Firearms, Aero Precision, also Stag Arms, same thing, and several others. And now he is bringing all that experience to BSF barrels. So welcome, Jack, and thank you for joining me on the podcast. And if you would introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about BSF barrels.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here. As Shaylene said, I'm Jack Jameson. Been doing this industry effect here for a little over 20 years now. Gosh, I can't believe that. It's kind of crazy. But a little over a year ago, right at a year ago, I guess, I landed with BSF barrels. I have known Aaron, the owner of BSF Barrels, for quite some time now, probably going back almost 4 or 5 years. And he and I have been chatting for a long time and just trying to figure out how to make all this work. And it finally has. And this role has been very challenging, but it's also probably one of the most rewarding ones I've ever had. BSF, we make carbon fiber barrels. That's all we do as of yet. Then I'll talk about that in a little bit. But
excellent.
Yeah. And so we've been doing that since 2017 when Aaron couldn't get the carbon fiber barrel from another manufacturer that he wanted within a time frame of less than a year. And so he said, I'm going to do my own thing. And Aaron was in the car business for a long time, for 30 years. And he said, I'm going to start a machine shop and I'm going to build my own barrels. That's where it started, funny enough. So
wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That'll just when you can't get your customers their product, we have innovative customers. They can make their own.
100%. 100%. Ours is a little bit differently done, and I'll kind of come back to that in a little bit. But we do an amazing product for a lot of OEM manufacturing. Probably about 65% of our business is OEM right now. So we make them for other gun manufacturers. And, we make them for Weatherby, we make them for Savage, we make them for Henry, working on a few more right now. Hopefully that will come to fruition here in the next few months. But yeah, really excited about that. And then of course the consumer side, and that's probably our biggest growing segment, percentage wise, because we like you talk about here in a little bit, the Midway USA, the Optics Planets, the Rainier Arms, Brownell, all those guys. They're a huge portion of our business, and they are only growing every day, honestly. So it's kind of nice to have that.
Yeah, our consumers, they're smart people, and they want to build their own, and they want to improve what they have. So I'm glad to hear that's continuing to grow. It is quite a big market. A lot of our listeners, are from our industry, but then some are not from our industry, but have, maybe come across the podcast, or I hear from them that they want to work in our industry, and it's just such a mystery sometimes. It feels like to some people that's behind this door. And we know it isn't, but you can see how it feels that way. Maybe just for a minute, you could talk with our audience about some of your journey. Like, what does that look like from the inside? Because you've worked at these really recognizable big brands, like Beretta, USA, AOB, right? These are big brands people recognize. What did that look like as you worked at those different companies? And can you share any of that with our listener?
Sure. Well, let me kind of go back a little bit and talk about how I really got into it. So it's funny enough, my wife and I, and I'll try to make this a shorter story. My wife and I graduated college and we were like, okay, we don't have jobs. We have a little bit of savings. What are we going to do? And we were getting ready to get married in October. So we both graduated from Missouri State University, which is in Springfield, Missouri. We both moved to Iowa to live with her parents for about 6 months and then got married in October. After we got married in late October, we were like, what are we going to do? What's going on? What's the plan? And she's like, let's just go somewhere different. We've never done anything like this. And so we moved to Denver, Colorado with no jobs. And we loaded everything that we had in her Ford Taurus and my Chevy S10, my 1988 Chevy.
I love it. I love it.
We moved into a little apartment, basically right downtown Denver, Colorado. My sister was managing the building and we went there and I was very fortunate. I got on with Lowe's Home Improvement and I started out as a $10 an hour guy at 25 years old, right? And I was like, okay, I'm gonna make this work. This is gonna be my career, right? Started out as a $10 an hour guy. Within 6 months, I was a store manager for him.
Wow, no kidding.
I had a little bit of retail experience. I worked at Walmart when I was, real young and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I had done quite a bit of jobs through college. I worked for Kraft Foods and all kinds of crazy stuff, made cheese at night. Anyway, I'll not get into that story. But so we're out in Colorado for, gosh, it was like 3.5 years. And this is the early 2000s, right? And so it was pretty expensive to live there then. I think we were paying $1,000 a month for an 800 square foot apartment. It was ridiculous, which today that doesn't sound like much, but
Right.
in 2004, it was ridiculous, I thought.
Yeah.
And we didn't think we were ever going to be able to buy a house, and all that kind of stuff. And I was making decent money with Lowe's, but I wasn't just rolling in it by any means. And Ann says, let's go back to Springfield. I want to get a master's degree, yada, yada, yada. So I'll make it fast forward. We're back in Springfield and I transfer back with Lowe's. I go to another store right outside of Springfield, Missouri. And I'm just like, I'm working like 80 plus hours a week and I'm never seeing my wife and we're not newlyweds at this point, but we're, we don't have kids. We still want to enjoy each other.
Yeah.
And so I got on the internet one night and I just was like, oh, blah, blah, blah. Because I've always been a big hunter, a big shooter, stuff like that, a big shooter. I mean, I love shooting guns, and I got on the internet and Bass Pro was hiring in their corporate office, which, was 15 minutes from the house. And I applied for it, got on there, and 2 weeks later I had the job. It was crazy. It was the craziest thing I could ever explain.
Wow.
I went to work for Bass Pro. It's what they call a retail specialist. And I took care of a set of stores for everything in their hunting needs, everything from deer scent to, bullets to long guns, everything, special orders. I set all their merchandising needs, everything like that. And
Did you feel like you were just landed the job of a lifetime?
it was like my dream job, right? I've landed in heaven. I get a discount on stuff from Bass Pro. I get to meet all these people. It's great, right? And so fast forward to like a year and a half, I do that job. I'm loving it. But then an assistant merchant job comes open. So I get to be a buyer for Bass Pro, right?
Wow.
And so at that time I was the assistant, but I was really buying all the duck calls and turkey calls and all that kind of stuff. I was a big duck hunter at that time and absolutely loved it. So we were buying optics as well, which I didn't know a huge amount about, but I was really interested in. And so I learned that and it was such a great experience. I can't say enough good things about my experience at Bass Pro, other than I was in a cubicle every day, and I'm such a people person. Anybody that knows me, God knows I could talk forever about nothing. I think I mentioned that earlier, but anybody that knows me, I'm very much a people person. I like to be out and about doing things.
Yeah.
And cubicle land just wasn't for me. And funny enough, so my good buddy, Gabe Ballog, he had gone to work for Beretta. He worked with me at Bass Pro there. And like a year later, he went to work for Beretta and he called me and he's like, hey, the guy that has your territory is getting ready to leave. And he says, if you want to, apply for this job, call this person, and this person. And funny enough, so I was like, I come back and I talk to my wife and I'm like, I'll probably be on the road quite a bit and, but I'll be out and doing things and it'll be better for our family. And she's like, yeah, do it. It's guns, it's Beretta,
Yeah.
And so I was all excited about that. And so I called Mark Joyce, and, he and I met in St. Louis and had a great experience. And I think it was like 3 weeks later, I had that job. So it was the craziest thing I can ever explain. But man, I was a territory sales guy for Beretta for almost 8 years. Loved everything about that job. I mean, how bad can it be? You get to go out and shoot guns for a
Exactly.
living, basically.
Yeah.
Now, granted, I was selling them, but I would do
Right.
quite a few events here and there. I got to know so many people in the industry. That's really where it. I mean, with my experience between Bass Pro and Beretta, I learned so many things. I got to meet so many different people, and really that's what it's all about in this
But let's
industry:
talk about that for a
building
second.
relationships.
Let's talk about that for a second, because I think this would be very interesting to our audience that you and I know, and you know firsthand. But when you're a territory guy for one of these brands and you're on the road all the time, this is a great way to break into our industry. This is when you're young and you want to get going in the industry. What are the things you shouldn't sweat it? I mean, just realize this is a stepping stone. Like, how do you make it really work as a territory salesperson?
Well, and that's just it. It's like I kind of had aspirations. My big goal was I wanted to be the national sales manager, and whether that's for Beretta or whether that was for another
Yeah.
company, that's what I wanted to do. I knew that was kind of my plan. National sales manager at the time, I didn't really think of all the nuances of vice president or director of
Right.
sales or anything like that. But I knew I wanted to be a national sales manager. And so really what it came down to was I worked my behind off.
Yeah.
I
It's
would
hard
get up
work.
and I would go, I literally ran the dirt. I think, so Beretta gave us a Jeep Grand Cherokee to drive. I put 80,000 miles on that car in 1 year. Now, granted,
Oh.
I had big dirt, right? I had
Yeah.
Missouri, Iowa, Nebraska, Kansas. Plus, I also helped out with some of the national accounts, with Shields. Like we would do Shields University. I'd help do Bass Pro just because it was in my backyard, at the time. So it was a lot of dirt. I didn't have the biggest territory in the country, but it was pretty big. I would go up
But it
and I'd
worked
help.
because you're a relationship guy, right? It got you from out of the cubicle in front of people. And as I recall, you really excelled there in that job.
I did. I did. As I kind of talked about, I've been a big duck hunter for a long time, and I was a shotgun nerd. Okay. At that time, the Beretta A400 Excel and Extreme came out, and I literally immersed myself into that gun. I knew it inside, outside, upside down, everything about it. And so that kind of led to, hey, Jack, are you interested in being maybe a product manager for us and all this kind of stuff? And I really liked the idea. However, I didn't want to move to the East Coast.
Yeah.
At that time, Beretta was based out of Accio-Peak, Maryland.
Yep.
Nothing against the East Coast. It's just not for me. I'm a Midwest guy. I've always been one at heart, and I always will be. But the product manager position was a great opportunity for me, but it just didn't quite make it work. But there were a lot of times where they were still floating in between people, and a lot of people at the office would call me, be like, "What's going on with this gun?" Blah 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 blah. And
Yeah.
so it was a pretty cool experience, with that. Just
And then
getting to know.
where did you go? Did you go to AOB after that?
Well, it was still, 8 years, I guess, in that
Wow.
time. And then I got recruited to, again, you meet lots of people, right?
Yeah.
I got recruited to go to Crimson Trace / AOB. AOB and Smith & Wesson had just bought Crimson Trace like 4 months before I got
I
there.
remember that.
So they hadn't made that full transition yet. So this is like
Yeah.
late 2017, something like that. But they hadn't made that full transition from Crimson Trace to Smith & Wesson / AOB. It was still up in the air and all that kind of stuff, but they owned them, right? So anyway, I go to work for them. I am the national accounts guy for them. I call on all the midways. I call on which I've been calling on midways before, but I call on Optics Fight now. I call on Primary Arms. I call on all the big internet retailers, plus Shields, plus Bass Pro, plus all of the major, and that was my role with Crimson Trace. I didn't have distribution at that point, but I had called on distribution before with Beretta, so it was a pretty natural transition. But man, that was an almost overwhelming time for me to learn and meet all these people, to go through what I did, and it was just such a great experience. I was like my head was about to explode.
Well, you definitely learned optics then if you didn't know it.
Oh, certainly. And I really got to know it at Bass Pro towards the end of my Bass Pro time. But, optics was such a big thing. That right about that time, it felt like everybody was really coming on board. Vortex was already established and getting bigger. And then there's here comes this steamroller of 100 different optics brands, and I could sit here and mention them all, but at that Crimson Trace had just gotten into, a full line of scopes and all that kind of stuff. And man, I really kind of immersed myself into it and helped build that line of optics. And we know what they did with that, but it just wasn't for them. But
let's talk about after that. So really, because your textbook, I mean, in my mind, your textbook, when people call me and say, I want someone who's worked their way up through the ranks, this is not exactly what we were going to talk about, but I think this is super on point for our audience and really interesting because it really shows that you can get wherever you want to go. You just have to work really hard and learn your products and be genuine and love your products, because look at your career path. I mean, you went from doing retail. I mean, I'm sure that was super hard work, great training, then into territory sales for Beretta USA, then into national sales, national accounts for AOB. And then you went to Aero Precision Stag Arms thing. And weren't you VP of sales there?
Yep. So it's funny. So I had a little short stint at Saxon Firearms. So Saxon had told me.
That's right.
I had known Joey. Joey is their CEO over there. I think is CFO, CEO. I can't remember exactly. Joey Guerra. He's such a great guy. But he had called me when I was kind of AOB. Let me go back just one second. I'll try to keep this short because you know me. I could, like I said, but AOB was kind of, they were right at their I would say transition out of Smith and Wesson into being AOB as their whole thing. Right? Yes. So that Smith and Wesson time frame was only about 3 or 4 years. But anyway, they were kind of getting into their own thing, and I just wasn't. I didn't feel like I was contributing as much as I could. So
that was a very big cultural shift during that time.
It was, and don't get me wrong, I still love all of those guys. I talk to a lot of them every day, and there's nothing wrong with it. It just wasn't the best fit for me at the time, right? Yeah. And so Joey had called me from Faxon, and he said, "Hey, I have a director of sales position open. Are you interested?" Because we had talked at the Optics Planet Gala of all places. That's how I met Joey. And so we went through the whole interview process, and I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna come to work for you. I'm gonna move my family from Iowa at this point to Ohio." And it was so funny. I had agreed, so I took this job in April of 2022, and then I wasn't going to move until June of 2022. Once my wife was a teacher at that point, the kids were getting out of school, and so we're going to move at the beginning of summer, and it's going to be great. Very long story short is, as I'm driving the U-Haul out there in June, my best friend and coworker from AOB, Ryan Donahue, calls me. He says, "Hey, they're going to let me run a gun company. I need you to be my VP of sales." And I'm like, no, I'm driving the U-Haul right now across the country to move my family.
Yeah.
And he's like, "I'm going to call you back and I'm going to change your mind later." And so I just kind of blew it off. I didn't really think anything fake.
But it's Ryan. And when Ryan has the dead set on something.
If anybody knows Ryan, he's good at what he does.
He is.
And so like a month and a half later, he calls again and he's like, "Dude, I really need you. This is what I want to happen." And he's like, this is a VP of sales position at Stag Arms, and it's probably likely going to change into VP of sales at Aero Precision as well. All that was yet to be worked out, but it was pretty well done at that point.
Yeah.
So, and I was like, man, I just took this job with Faxon, but I really had to think about it. And he tempted me with a good salary, and I could live wherever I wanted. And
people like to work for Ryan.
Yeah, and again, like you just said, he's such a great person, and I just admire him for what he does. But yes, one of my best friends, always will be. Anyway, and so he says, I really need you. You can live wherever you want, and here's your salary. And I was like, oh, okay. So I went back, talked to the wife, and just made the decision to go work for him. And I had to go back and tell Joey, I'm like, hey, buddy,
Oh,
it's been a great 3 months. I
that would have
love
been
you
hard.
because I'm not a huge emotional guy, but I was feeling it. You know, I was like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh. And because Joey is such a good guy. The factions are all such great people. I like them a lot, but I just had to make this opportunity. And they were like, guys, it's only been 3 months. It's not that big a deal. Do your thing. And I respected that for him. For him too. So
Totally.
So fast forward, I'm at Air Precision and Stag Arms. Love the job. Love what we're doing. We're cruising along. We're selling everything we could make at that point. We're just I'm leveraging all of my relationships from my previous experience at Bass Pro. Air Precision was never in Bass Pro. They were never in distribution before. They were never part of buy groups before. They were never part of all these things that I had been doing over the last 8 to 15 years, it seems like. But and so pretty successful at that. And then very quickly it transformed into, I had people calling me literally every week, recruiters and guys from other companies, and I'm cruising along. This is 2024 by this time, and I have people calling me every week. And so very long story short is I took a job that was for a lot of money. They dumped a lot of money at me. And I have learned that is not something that is best practice.
Yes,
and
that's right.
So
and
that didn't really fit for me. It wasn't the best experience of my life, but thank goodness that Aaron was there and he and I had been talking anyway about.
Let's talk about where you're at now, because this is a good transition. Tell us about BSF barrels. You did tell us about Aaron, and he decided to open this up and start this, but I'm excited to hear about this company. Tell us where they're at, what they're doing. Tell me more about that.
Yeah. So BSF, or Blackstone Firearms, BSF barrels. That's where the BSF comes from. We're based out of Delavan, Wisconsin. So it's about 45 minutes from Milwaukee, about an hour from Chicago, kind of in that Lake Geneva area of Wisconsin. Okay. It seems like there is about 30 barrel makers right in that area. It's crazy. Bartline barrels, Krieger barrels. I mean, there's all sorts of different ones. Aaron has nothing to do with them. Didn't know them from anything. It just happened to be in that same area. And like I said, before we make carbon fiber barrels, and that's what we do, right? We do it a little bit differently than what everybody else does. Traditionally, a carbon fiber barrel is made where they will take a steel barrel and they will jacket it in carbon fiber, and they will put it on a spindle and basically wind carbon fiber thread that runs through resin onto that steel barrel blank, and then they will sand it down and make it all pretty. How we do it is a little bit different. What we'll do is we'll take the barrel blank, we'll turn it down, and then we'll actually take a piece of roll wrapped carbon, which is a tube, and we will slide that over the blank, and then we will put that under a specific tension for each model or caliber, if you want to call it that. And that way you get even tension all the way throughout that barrel. So all of the harmonics won't be all wacky. And, certainly you have harmonics of barrels, but this kind of evens that stuff out. And what you get from that is you get an air gap in there. And so you get the cooling properties of a carbon fiber. Our carbon fiber that we get, we don't make it. We order it specifically from an aerospace carbon fiber provider. And we wanted it to dissipate heat very, very well as be super strong, right? And so we get it from them and we build it that way. And it's patented. There's nobody else that can do it, as far as on center fire calibers. There's quite a few they're doing some stuff with rim fire, but that's a little bit different process. So, but yeah, it's pretty cool how we do it. We can build it a little bit more economically than your traditional carbon fiber rack guys. Nothing wrong with what they do. I'll not say that. I always
They have different need. There's not just one firearms manufacturer. There's there's lots of different kinds of firearms.
Yep. So that's how we do what we do, and we're getting ready to venture into some new products. There may be some different stuff you'll see from us later on this year, and certainly at SHOT Show. But we're going to be expanding into stuff that takes a 4473. How about that?
Ooh.
So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what are your calibers right now? What's your lineup
So
right now?
we make everything from basically a 22 cal blank all the way up to 45-70. So all the way up to a 45 cal. We can do anything. We don't do a whole lot of rim fire anymore just because we kind of leave that to some other folks that do it a little bit differently. But we still do some rim fire, just not a whole lot. But any center fire caliber from 22 cal all the way up. So we're obviously the new 22 arcs, the 22 Creedmoors, all that. That's been a really hot seller for us, all the way up to, we do 45-70 barrels for Henry. We're the only carbon fiber manufacturer for lever actions right now, which is pretty cool. We partnered with Henry and have been doing that for a little over a year. So it's pretty cool.
Very cool. Now, where can consumers buy these products and where can they learn more? I mean, I'm sure it's bsfbarrels.com,
Yep.
right?
Correct.
And you guys have an Instagram page?
Yep.
And a
BSF Barrels on
Facebook
Instagram. Yep. And a Facebook page. And then of course, you can kind of catch most of our stuff on there. That's where you see a lot of it. We are investing heavily into Instagram as much as we can because they're such sticklers for what they allow you to do. But
Yeah.
we've got a marketing firm that helps us out with that. And then of course, you're going to start seeing a YouTube channel from us.
Oh, good.
Pretty quickly. Again, I'm, kind of working on a few things there, but kind of excited about that. And then of course, you can buy our products from, like I said, the Midway USA's, the Optics Planets, every major retailer, and then most of the mom and pop retailers out there.
Great.
So BSF was never part of distribution network or what we call third party distributors. We're now working with Sports South. So anybody that orders from Sports South can get our products through Sports South now. So that's another avenue for us. So been doing really good there. Lots of cool things coming from BSF.
Yeah, that's amazing. And you guys are adding to your warehouse right now, aren't you?
Yep. So we're doing an expansion on the building. We're going to give probably about half again as much space as what we've got. So probably about 8,000 to 10,000 square feet we're going to add. So we're going to be upping our manufacturing capabilities. As I've talked about, we do a lot of OEM work with Weatherby, Henry, Savage, all those guys. And we're going to expand that into a few more manufacturers. But the main goal will be to get all these retail orders out in a timely manner. Right now, we're at about 8 weeks. If you call and order a barrel right now, it takes us about 8 weeks, which is still considerably less than a lot of others. But I want to up that into about a 2 to 3 week turnaround. And this will allow us to do that. And so with that manufacturing space, we're adding some office space. We're going to be adding a photography studio, all sorts of different stuff. So I'm looking at expanding our team as well through that. So it'll probably be the beginning of the year time frame, SHOT Show time frame. But that's my goal, is to try to get everything done at that point. So yeah.
Good. Well, if you're listening, remember that. Don't forget Jack Jameson. Reach out to him because he will be adding team members eventually.
Absolutely. I hope to add 2 to 3 team members somewhere around the beginning of the year, and then who knows from there.
Yeah.
We're actually, I say that's on the sales and marketing side. We are actively looking for manufacturers, on the manufacturing side all the time. So if anybody is in the Delavan, Lake Geneva area, we pay pretty good. So,
So you're looking for talent for your manufacturing floor.
Yeah. Machine
And
operator.
come work for a great company right there locally in the Geneva area.
Yep.
They should reach out to you.
Absolutely. You can reach out to me through the website, or it's jackj@bsfbarrels.com.
And we'll put some links on this. When this is posted, we'll put the links on our website and our social media, so that way people can reach you that way as well.
Yep, absolutely. I sure appreciate that.
Jack, thank you. This was so fun. I'm so glad that we got to go through your history,
Me too.
because I don't often get to do that. And this is a constant thing people ask me about when they call in and they want to get into our industry. And you're the textbook. Like, that's it. This is how it can be done. You just have to keep at it.
Yeah. And again, I have been very fortunate. And like I said, this business, this industry is very much relationship based. And I've been very fortunate to meet a lot of great people in this industry. So
Yeah.
like I said, I think this is 21 years this year. So
Amazing. Amazing. Well, thank you very much. And thank you to our audience for tuning in for another podcast with HeadHunters Northwest. And we'll consider this a wrap. Thank you, Jack.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Have a good one.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the HeadHunters Northwest podcast. Specialized recruiting, specialized approach. You can reach out at headhuntersnw.com or call 605-600-1709. Join us again next week as we look behind the curtain into the global defense, small arms, and shooting sectors. HeadHunters Northwest, finding you the best heads for business.